In this episode, we tell the story of a woman who leveraged her nursing income into becoming a multimillionaire with a thriving financial literacy business along the way. Let's get started. Let's get some money. From New Money, New Problems, it's the New Money, New Problems podcast, a show for successful professionals searching for the tools they need to navigate financial opportunities and obstacles they've never seen. Negotiating compensation, purchasing your first investment property, helping your family with money, the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. New money brings new problems that require new solutions. Join us as we work through them together. I'm Brenton Harrison, and this is the New Money, New Problems podcast. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. I am very glad to have someone who has been very good to me, very kind to me over the years as a guest on this week's episode. She was laughing a little bit when I was recording the intro, but it's all true. So, very humble person. Before I even bring her on, I want to give a quick background as to how I met her. So, you all have heard me talk on the podcast about FinCon in the past for financial content creators, and I started coming to FinCon a little late in the game. And as is the case with almost all conferences, there's the cool kids club. And there's some times where if you're not in that club, it's a little hard to make friends when you're the new person to come to a conference. But since I have been coming, our guest today has just been very kind, very gracious, and I'm appreciative of that. And I wanted to make sure that we told her story. So today we have Naseema McElroy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so flattered. You're so funny. I love it.
All right, you ready to get started?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to act as if I don't know your origin story. So
Okay.
if you could tell our audience, where are you from?
So I'm from Oakland, California.
Okay, Bay Area. So
Yeah.
it's the town, right? Not so.
Yeah, the town.
All right. So before we get into kind of what you do and how you've built a profile, tell me a little bit about growing up in Oakland. What was childhood like?
Well, so very uniquely, I was raised by a single dad and early on had to take care of a lot of the responsibilities around the house. Had to learn how to do our own hair really early. And I was like watching kids and babysitting. So I always like had money. Like I was making money since I was like 5. But that was just like for my own personal things that I needed. Had to run a household really early. But when it came to like bigger money issues, I mean, there really wasn't a lot of money, so we didn't really talk about money until I got older when, conversations around buying a car or things like that came up, and I had to buy my own. I mean, my dad didn't even have a car. He rode his bike to work because he lived a couple miles away from his job. But, so I had to buy my own car. I had to pay for my own anything I wanted to do extracurricularly. And so that was my experience with money. Like if I wanted something, I had to work for it.
Okay. And,
Mhm.
when you're a child, there's stuff that you don't realize is impacting you, that you're picking up along the way. But,
Yeah.
I would say for most children, definitely for me, there's not as much like responsibility. So, right, it's like, well, I was unaware, but it wasn't that big of a deal because there wasn't that much on me.
Right. Exactly.
When you were younger, like, did you recognize like this is kind of unique, right? Like, not everybody out
No,
here is doing
I
this.
didn't. I mean, I knew it was unique to be raised by a single dad, but it's like all the stuff that was like with that weighed more heavily than all the other stuff. Being like, I thought I was the oldest child. I just had the oldest child responsibilities. Other than that, like, I thought like that was
This
normal.
is normal. So you mentioned that you bought your first car.
Uh
I
huh.
don't think most high schoolers would have the ability to understand, like, well, I made this money, but if I gotta buy the car, I gotta put some money aside. Were
Hmm.
you taught that? Like, did you just have to figure it out? How did that process work out?
I just figured it out. I was like, well, this is my money. Like I didn't really have any other expenses. So by that time I was like working at the Boys and Girls Club. So I had like a paycheck and I was doing hair. Like it was a point I did everybody's hair at my school. Any function you would go to, like I'm the one who braided their hair. So I was making really, really good money.
Okay.
But I just didn't spend it on anything else except for what I needed it for.
Did you have the experience like most people with that first paycheck or that first year when it's being taxed of not realizing, oh, somebody's taking a little bit out of that?
No, I actually didn't even trip. Like, I kind of just knew that that was how paychecks worked. And because my dad would always talk about taxes and stuff like that. And we live in California, so taxes are really high, right? And so it's just like the norm. I was like, well, I'm not going to get all of it. I looked at it. It was like, okay. Like, I just worried about what I was bringing home.
Mm. Well, in the intro, I teased your nursing career. How
Hmm.
did that come to be?
So nursing was a second career for me. So, like most of us taught, go to the best schools and, get a good job. So started off pre-med, then changed to healthcare administration, got a master's in healthcare administration, worked as a healthcare administrator, hated it, but loved healthcare, but really wanted to affect the way people access care, loved what the nurses I was working with were doing. So after I had my master's degree, I went back to school and got another degree in nursing, and then ended up with another master's degree in nursing. So then started working as a labor and delivery nurse and didn't even use my master's degree in nursing as a family nurse practitioner. So I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 16 years.
Now, I have seen plenty of people go from the transition of I'm on patient side to admin side. I've
Yeah, I went
never
back.
seen someone go in reverse. What was that like?
It was just way better. The admin side for me, just it wasn't my thing. I didn't like the bureaucracy. I didn't My goal in getting into healthcare was to really affect people's access to care. Like, I grew up where my dad made too much money to have insurance. It was before Obamacare. Too much money to have, I mean, he made too much money to have like Medi-Cal, but not enough money to afford insurance because it was so expensive. And so I had to access care through health clinics, and the access was so bad. And so I really wanted to affect change, and like did a crazy fellowship in healthcare administration. So I was in every department, and I just never felt like I was really affecting change. And so for me, like being at the bedside, being with those patients, it feels so rewarding, unlike the other careers that I have. And believe me, people see my resume, people see my experience, and they always try to pull me to the administrative side. But that's just not my thing. That's just not where my heart is. And I'll retire as a bedside nurse.
I appreciate that. I think that each person, when it comes to their career pursuits, I'm not a big believer in like you have to work in the thing that you have the most passion about.
Hmm.
But I do think that there has to be something that doesn't like directly conflict with your passions, right? There's a difference.
Hmm.
Um, in a less health altering way, I feel very
Hmm.
similar about my career, right? Like I could go work for a big firm, I could do certain
Hmm.
things, but to me, I'm like, the people that I bring with me along the way wouldn't be able to come with me to those places. So it
Hmm.
doesn't suit the things that I, hold most dear. So definitely think that that's
Yeah,
great.
but also what was important to me is that I was told to climb this corporate ladder, and that meant success. Once I understood that success didn't have anything to do, and my financial freedom was not tied to me building this corporate ladder, and it was really soul sucking to me. And I knew that I make a really good income as a labor and delivery nurse, and I've been able to use that income to be able to accelerate my path to financial freedom. And so, like, if I'm doing what I love and I'm able to parlay that into something that is going to build wealth for me, why would I change that?
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
that's a great segue. So, let's talk about um, the development of your drive to become financially free.
Yeah. Like, I've always made money, right? I've always been that person that people are like, Naseema's got it. Naseema has all those things. So, like, according to IG reels, like I was popping, I had a six-figure job, I had brand new luxury car, I had a big old brand new build house. But I knew that I wasn't where I wanted to be financially, because I knew that I did not have real wealth. I was still in a position where I was living paycheck to paycheck, even though I got paid really well, but I did not know what that looked like. I just knew that I didn't really have any investments, a lot of investments saved up. Like, what is that? What does that look like? Like, I need to understand this. And I felt like I dedicated so much time to my formal education. I was like, I need to dedicate that same kind of time into learning my finances. And so it got to a point where my daughter was turning one, single mom, and I was just like, I got to figure this out. So then I went on this journey of like trying to figure out what podcasts I can listen to, what books I can read, like what can I do to understand money, but like with the intention of knowing that I'm going to have to do like some PhD level like diving. And then I realized, oh, you know what? I have this debt. Like I haven't established a plan around it, then set off on this journey of paying off my debt. And once I understood like how to actually budget and, set goals, I was able to pay off nearly $1 million in debt in under 3 years, just under 3 years. And then from there, that's when I started like through the podcast and podcasts I was listening to and books I was listening to. I listened to audiobooks. Had my hack is I listen to everything on 2x speed because I process things really, really fast because I have ADHD. So, but I didn't learn that until my late 30s. But I was listening and consuming so much. Then I discovered the FIRE community, financially independent, retire early community. And I was just like, wait, so retirement, like, and investing and all this stuff, like, is not really hard. Retirement is not is not an age. It's like a number. Like all these things, like flip the script. And I was just like, oh, so you're saying like if I just like put all this energy that I was using to pay off this debt so fast into like investing aggressively, like I can make work optional. Like that's a thing. Like I don't have to climb this corporate ladder. Like that doesn't mean success. Like no, like and so this whole new world opened up to me. And after I paid off my debt, I started investing aggressively for myself. I started a 529 for my daughter, and it just accelerated from there.
Well, you said something in passing because you're a humble person, but I'm not gonna allow you to skip over it. So you said $1 million in 3 years. So we got to
Yeah.
go back to that, right? So
Yeah.
like, if you could, because
Yeah.
it's interesting. You have put that on your social media, and I love it when you like break down
Mhm.
here were the debts, right? Because
Yes.
immediately in the Instagram and social media world in which we live, if somebody says something like that without social proof, the comments are, oh, prove it. So like, let's prove it, right? Like, if you could give me
Right.
some numbers and walk me through the journey of how you did it.
So initially, so the biggest chunk of it was I'll walk you through like what really happened. So the biggest chunk of it was like my student loans. So I had over $200,000 in student loans, and the rest of it was like regular debt. I had taken out a 403b loan to put a down payment on my house. That was a big chunk. Everything else was like I had a commuter car that I needed to pay off, like braces. In the interim, I got married, divorced. Like he had some debts in there. We're like small little things, the braces. He had another car, like all of those things. But the things that are just normal. What happened was I was paying off my debt, got really close to paying off my student loans, was like chunking money at all of these things. And towards the end of the journey, I got a divorce, and then I had to pay him out a settlement, which was like $30,000 plus the way I had filed my taxes because we were going through divorce was married filing separately. So then I had to owe the IRS $30,000. So I was like really close. I was like $10,000 away from being debt free. Then like another 50 something $1,000 got tacked on to my debt. And then like I just like came to a decision where I did not like I wanted to sell my house. It was a house that I was married in, a whole lot of trauma happened there. I was in a new relationship. I was going to move closer to my family. So I sold my house at the end, like when I had $50,000 left. So in that time I had paid off like 500 something $1,000, right, including my student loans. Then I paid off at the end. I sold my house, which was another almost 500 something $1,000 that was left on my debt. So that came to $1 million, nearly $1 million. And the reason why I tell you like that, because if I say, well, I sold my house and all this kind of stuff, like automatically people are just like, well, you had a house to sell. Yes, but also if I didn't have the house, I wouldn't have $1,000,000 of debt. It would have been like a $500,000 debt story, right? So,
Well,
and
see,
it is a debt,
I
and
actually
that's
look
what
at it
people don't
differently.
understand.
I
Yes.
actually look at it differently, and there's a reason. Because I've seen you walk through the numbers, so I knew what
Yes.
you were about to say. But the
Uh-huh.
reason I say that is because it's not that I think everybody should sell their home, but we've talked about on this podcast that the two things that are most difficult for me to tell a client are
Mhm.
when they're in a house that they can't afford and when they don't have the income to send their children to private school. Those are the
Ooh.
two things where I'm just like, look, I'm not saying that you can't, right? I'm not telling you to sell. I'm not telling you to pull your child out of the school, but I am telling you that you can't have that desire and the goal of XYZ, right? We all make a
Yes.
choice. My
Yes.
son goes to private school. I'm aware that because of that decision, there's certain other things that I can't do financially. So
Yes.
to me, you're right. Like you decided to sell the house, but it's like you were that based on what you wanted from your journey,
Mhm.
the house had to go.
Yeah,
And
it
to me,
makes
that's the
sense.
powerful thing.
Exactly, exactly. But I say it like that because automatically people disqualify it in their mind when I say, like, I sold a house. It was like, well, if I had a house to sell, I'd pay off all my debt too. But you just ignored all the other debt. And then it's just people like are like, well, that's not really applicable to me. Like, I can't do that. Like, and so I just don't want people to disqualify. I see it all the time. I'm even like in working with this brand campaign. Like, I'm in a national campaign and I'm sharing these numbers. But like for the lawyers, they're like, well, she needs to prove that she paid off this debt. And I'm just like, I got receipts. Like, I don't understand. Like, why is that so unbelievable? I live in California. The average housing cost is like $700,000. $1,000,000 is not a lot of debt. The thing is, most people just don't add their debt up.
Hmm. Well, you have a
They
safe
don't know.
space here at the New Money New Problems podcast, so we'll continue. So,
Yes.
when you were on that journey to, you talked
Uh-huh.
about the fire community,
Mhm.
but when you were looking at like podcasts and books and things of that nature, were there any in particular where you're like, this was like the one that just gave me an aha moment?
Man, for real. Well, Journey to Launch podcast, I love Jamila. Like, I was there with her from like day one when she started. And so the guests that she brought on were like really eye opening to me. And then very early on, like Clever Girl Finance podcast and Choose FI was like the one that was like, man, like when it came to investing, when it came to like credit cards, like understanding credit cards, like all that kind of stuff. Like, that's where I started to everything like started to really click. So those were the three main podcasts that I listened to during that time that were like really eye opening.
Okay, we'll link to
Yeah.
all those in the show notes.
Mhm.
Along your journey, you did talk about the fact that you started investing for yourself. You started
Mhm.
529 for your girls.
Mhm.
You do great content about how you've invested for them.
Mhm.
How do you start to build the confidence to start to like bring other people into your world and show them what you're doing?
That is how my platform started actually. Um I started this platform just for my friends. So literally I have these friends I've been friends with since middle school and high school. And most of us have girls. Like there's a couple boys sprinkled in there. But so we always have like these sleepovers. So they're at my house. And I was like, I'm learning these things with my money is when I was like paying off my debt. I was like, I'm learning these things about my money. And I really think like these are things that we should know. One thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to go back to like when I started actually like working on my money, I was just like, this is not that hard. Like, why do we overcomplicate things? Like when I said I needed like a PhD level understanding, I was like, no, this is just like basic stuff. It's just not taught to us. So in knowing that, I told my friends, like, this is just something I really want us all to understand and be able to teach our daughters, right? And so I was like, if I like put everything out, because I don't want to repeat myself, if I put it like on a platform like Instagram, which was relatively newer at that time and definitely not used for this kind of stuff that much, I was like, if I put it on Instagram or a blog, would you guys like read it? And they were like, yeah. And so I just started my Instagram to share what was going on in my life and the things that I was doing with my friends. And then it just started getting picked up by different platforms. And like people were like, this is crazy. Like you're paying off this debt. And then it just took off from there organically. Like that wasn't my intention, but it was always to share. And so my platform is really just like sharing information, like sharing like what I'm doing and showing you that this girl who's been through all of this stuff can do this, and if I can do this you can too. And so I just feel like I was born from, like I was always told, like each one teach one. If you learn something, you share it with somebody else. And also I learned that if you can teach something back to someone else, it solidifies the knowledge in your brain. And so that's what I do on my platform.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about the details of, because
Mhm,
you have different offerings, you teach
mhm,
courses,
mhm,
classes.
mhm.
Fill us in about the details of what you offer.
So on my platform, basically, is a lot of free games. So I have a podcast that has over 300 episodes. I have like I break down like what I do for my kids, how I've done it. But people always ask if they can work with me. So I have like ebooks that you can just download that show you like the steps that I take to invest in what I invest in for myself and then for my kids. And then I have a course where it's a 6 month program where you have access to me and we go through budgeting, investing, paying down debt, and setting up your path to financial freedom. So I do that with people. I just opened that up last month. So yeah, that's how I work with people.
Okay, a
Yeah.
question that we ask of everybody who
Hmm.
comes on, and we start with the negative first so we can get it
Hmm.
out the way.
Yeah.
So we're big on childhood experiences and what they
Mm.
taught us about money and how they impact us. So there is something that you were taught or observed about money that has impacted you even as an adult. And when you're at your worst, this is the thing that you have to keep at bay, right? Like, I
Yes.
know this about myself. I got to overcome this, or otherwise I'm in a bad spot. Like,
Yeah.
what did your early experiences about money negatively reinforce in your life?
That wealth wasn't for me. So when I was growing up, I lived in the hood. I lived in West Oakland, and but I went to school in a very affluent neighborhood. I had to catch 3 buses there, and big homes all around me. Everybody had money, and me and my sister was the only people that looked like me at that school, and everybody else had money and they didn't look like me. So I always thought that that kind of wealth was for them and not for me. And it shows up a lot in everything that I do, even now with what I have, because I feel like I have so much more potential, but that really like gets in the way, and I really have to work hard against that narrative.
Okay. Now there's a flip side to this,
Hmm.
because I believe that we all have something that we picked up from our family or people that were around us, that you're like, man, I'm so glad that this is a part of my personality, right? And it
Hmm.
helps me with my journey to wealth, right? Speaking of
Hmm.
Jamila. So, like, what is your positive behavior or thing that you picked up where you're like, this is a unique element of my personality that serves me well?
I think it's my ability to share things with people and to help people and to bring people along the journey with me. I really feel like it's my obligation to make sure people have this information because I really feel like the greatest form of protest is financial freedom.
Okay. Now, my final question for you is, you mentioned that you started your channel to help a few friends, right?
Hmm.
Like, about how many friends are in that circle?
It's about, let's say, like 8.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so 8 friends. You started
Uh-huh.
this platform
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
help out 8 friends. By my last count, you have over 200,000 followers on Instagram.
Yes.
So when you look at where you started to where you are now, how does it feel?
It feels amazing. It feels amazing, but it also, you know, that you always like it's so hard to not like look at, oh my God, but I should be here. I mean, like I say I'm an OG in the game. Like I started back in 2016, and you see these people like start a Instagram in a year and like have 1 million followers, and you just like, so it's really hard to not do a comparison. But I am so honored, really, that I'm able to reach people in the way that I am ultimately. Like, seriously, like, I think that, first of all, it was a crazy fluke. I did not get into this to be a content creator or all this kind of stuff. But just because I had the audacity to share my story and my journey, I've been able to impact so many. So I love it.
Well, that's powerful, and you
Yeah.
should be proud. It's hard to not compare, but comparison is
Yeah.
the thief of joy. So I think we should
Yes.
all fight that urge, but I do understand it. Well, I am so appreciative, first, of just your kindness to me, your willingness to share on the platform. We will link to all of the information, especially your information that you mentioned. And
Hmm.
thank you for being a guest on the New Money, New Problems podcast.
Of course. Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I love this format. I've never done a podcast like this. It's great.
From New Money, New Problems, this was the New Money, New Problems podcast, a show for successful professionals searching for the tools they need to navigate financial opportunities and obstacles they've never seen.